What is going on, investors? Hopefully you guys are doing well out there. Probably a lot better than Alibaba shareholders, which are seeing the stock decline 15% today alone. I will jump over to the stock chart here in a little bit, and we'll see here just over the last few weeks, this stock has gone from over $300 per share down to about $215 per share just over the last few weeks. So we'll talk about some levels here where we could potentially buy Alibaba. Now, the reason why we're seeing a large drop today in Alibaba shares is because the government in China is looking at Alibaba from an anti-monopoly perspective. Now, the market regulator said that Alibaba has a policy of choosing one or two, which requires its business partners to avoid dealing with competitors. So Alibaba, if you partner with them or if you are owned in part by Alibaba, it looks like Alibaba encourages you or almost requires you not to work with competitors. And now we're seeing Chinese government say that is not fair to the other companies. Now, this was pretty well telegraphed. Back in November, China targeted Alibaba and other homegrown tech giants with anti-monopoly rules. So they were kind of drafting these up, and it looks like now these rules are not set in place. And so what I want to do is give you an idea where we're at today. So the Chinese government is setting for some rules, and it looks like they want to take some action. They're going to start a probe into Alibaba, and a couple things I believe can happen. Probably three scenarios for Alibaba. The first would be what is called a slap on the wrist. So regulators slap Alibaba on the wrist, slap them with a fine, nothing really happens. That certainly could be a likely scenario. The other scenario is something a little bit harsher than that. Maybe a slap on the wrist, maybe some regulation change, maybe some forced sales of some assets, things like that. But all in all, not too bad, not going to hurt Alibaba's market presence in China. Now, the third one, and the one that you have to be fearful if you're an investor or a potential investor in Alibaba, is some kind of nuclear option where the Chinese government just decides to blow up Alibaba and just obliterate it and separate it in all these different companies. And certainly as a shareholder, that may not be a positive thing. Now, what's interesting is Alibaba and its partly owned Ant Group and Tencent. Oh, look at all these valuations of these companies. Neo, I mean, these are all companies that the Alibaba, Ant Group, and Tencent, basically Alibaba and Tencent own a piece of all these companies. And so I think what's happening is Chinese regulators are very much like here in the United States. They're seeing that the power is starting to shift to the technology companies. Here in the United States, it's shifting to Google and Facebook and Twitter. These platforms can change public perception, public opinion, the news flow. And what do we know about politicians of any group, any country, anywhere in the world? What do they love? Power and control. And I think what China is seeing is that they could, I don't think they've lost it yet, but they could potentially lose power and control to these tech giants because they control so much of the ecosystem there in China. And so I think that is certainly something that Chinese regulators don't want to see. Now, from a fundamental kind of valuation perspective, I posted a video. I'll post a link to it in the comments below if you want to check out. I've already reviewed the financials of Alibaba recently. If you want to hear me go over them, I'm not going to repeat myself in this video. You can check them out down below. They haven't changed since I've last reported those. Now, Alibaba is trading at about 8 times sales, which we see here is kind of getting close to a floor. The stock has traded close to about a 6.7 times sales, but we're really close. We're like literally a point away from Alibaba trading at a 3-year low in terms of price to sales. This thing's been as high as about 15, almost 16 times sales. And so, boy, we've cut that basically in half. Now, from a stock chart perspective, this thing has gotten ugly really quick. We were in a very well-defined uptrend here. I'm on a weekly view here, but this stock completely broke down. This is the earnings calendar. This is when the stock reported earnings, had a huge drop, and we followed by another huge drop here by the regulation, anti-monopoly regulation news that has come out. Now, There are three levels here where I could potentially see somebody coming into Alibaba shares. The first one actually is right where this candle bounced here, right about $210 per share. That is the first area of support, and we actually saw that hold today. Now, this trend is really negative, and the news is unclear, so it takes some balls of steel, in my opinion, to step in here at this level. A lower level at 190 would be a little bit more interesting. In my opinion, it's smack dab middle in a range where I have here. Where I would absolutely love to get stock price of this is 170. We see here that was the start and kind of kickoff point to this rally, was right at 170. And I certainly could see if the news continues to get negative in Alibaba over the coming weeks and months ahead, this stock could easily come back into the 170. In fact, it could go even lower than that, in my opinion. But we'll see what happens with Alibaba. But great investors, from Warren Buffett to anybody, when there's quote unquote blood on the streets, they actually get excited and they actually want to start to think about stepping in when these types of drops happen in companies. Now, you have to do your own analysis of the company's financials and the long-term effects of any of these anti-monopoly probes and allegations. So a safe way to do it is just wait until this probe is over and completed and all the news is out. By then, Alibaba shares will probably bounced off the lows and traded a little bit higher, but you're still getting them at a valuation that is much lower than you would have paid several weeks ago. The other thing to do is hold your nose and dive deep into the deep end of the pool and hope and pray that the stock holds these levels and the probe ends up coming out in Alibaba's favor. That would be a little bit more risky play, in my opinion, but could potentially pay off huge if the probe is not very serious and the stock bounces off these support levels and resumes an uptrend at some point. So that's Alibaba. Anytime you have a mega cap company selling off this much, you should put it on your watch list and follow to see what happens, because buying opportunities can emerge in these situations. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. We'll be back again soon. Good luck with your investments.